So now that we've talked about stage one, identifying our desired results or our learning goals, in stage two, how are we going to measure those goals? We want to dive into stage three. How might we plan learning experiences to ensure that students can meet our goals that we planned in stage one and are prepared for the evidence collection in stage two? So here is the stage three learning plan portion of the template. So this section has a little bit more flexibility than stage one and stage two sections of the template. Um, Part of this is because each course might represent their learning plan differently. So right here where it says learning events, this is where we would indicate the different things that students would be engaged with in order to make sure that they've attended to all three types of goals and are prepared for assessments. And so in this instance, this is the type of course for driver's ed where a variety of skills are developed, it maybe potentially at different times, depending on the circumstances of the student driving. So how they listed it was they indicated the skills that would be developed during the course of the unit, and then the process by which students would learn each of those skills. It doesn't necessarily dictate the order. Also, it indicates that students and instructor would discuss essential questions after each learning event so students can start coming to the understanding that we want them to. And then there's opportunities for students to self-assess their learning. So in this type of course, this kind of cyclical process-based learning plan might work best. But in other courses, some PLCs have structured it so they know that lesson one, this is exactly what's happening, and here is a link to necessary resources. The second lesson might cover this information, or it might help students uncover this understanding. So it might be listed more chronologically. It just depends on how you and your PLC prefer to structure your learning plan. Notice this learning plan also indicates progress monitoring, how will formative assessment take place, what's the instructor looking for in terms of misconceptions, things like that. And then finally, it's really important for us to code our stage three learning plan to make sure that all of our goals are being attended to. So as you can see that we've coded all of our knowledge and skill goals here and our understanding goals here. And that helps make sure that we're hitting everything that we need to hit so students are prepared for their assessments. So for Novi Middle School, these have generally speaking been the requirements for the stage three learning plan. In the stage three learning plan, PLCs must include all instructional materials, activities, formative tasks that must be used by all teachers. So teachers in that PLC are in common agreement that this is what everyone has to do, and any other teachers can use potentially other materials that they help students meet the goals, but the required ones are listed in the learning plan. And then finally, assessment prep materials should be indicated in the learning plan just to ensure that there's a common assessment experience for students. We know that our stage two has to have common assessments, and part of an assessment being common is that assessment prep for those assessments. So you want to make sure that those are common for the prep materials are common from teacher to teacher as well. So once you're done constructing your stage three learning plan, I think one thing to keep in mind, even though this seems like a really linear process, you create your goals, you figure out your assessments, you plan your learning experiences. It's also kind of like writing a novel. Like you might start with goals, you might flesh all of these out, and then when you are in the middle of revisiting your evidence, you might realize, oh man, I really want to tweak some of my goals, which will also, by tweaking both of these, cause me to revisit my learning experiences and change that. So like writing a novel, you might start at one place and end at another, but you might keep recursively going back to different parts. It's not necessarily always this linear process. So I just think something to keep in mind is that designers continually revisit and revise all three stages as they develop units.